Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. Got Maria here. Hi Maria.
What up?
These are getting less and less formal every time. I'm typically like, this is my best friend Maria. Now I'm like, Maria's in the house.
It's much more casual. I prefer it this way, though.
Are we co-hosting yet?
Ooh, I don't know.
Actually, to be honest with you, you might not even be my first choice for a co-host.
Wow.
Because
hot take. Actually, not that hot of a take.
If we looked at numbers and we look at the DMs, Ben is an obvious selection. I'm just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him.
Like when
honestly.
I post a video of Ben talking about something, people are like, pop off, Ben.
People love Ben.
But I'm not getting that for you. So you're going to have to amp up your quality here.
I'll do what I can. But I'm also very happy to be replaced by Ben.
I'll do a rotation with you guys. So what we're going to talk about today is a question we get all the time. We got it actually. We ran a summit a few weeks ago, which was so fun. And we get this question all the time from people: is changing too much on social bad? How often should you reassess your social strategy? And I think what we're going to say is actually going to surprise some people because, you know, social changes all the time. So I think people think they should change all the time. But that's not necessarily our perspective on it. And so this is coming up a lot with people, especially like with new seasons and new platforms and new things that are coming out. It's like, where should I be spending my time? How should I be spending it? And we totally get that, especially because trends like move so quickly that it feels like you should move quick too. But that's not necessarily the case. So I'm excited to chat about it.
I know. And I think the other side of the coin is that, like, I feel like especially people who don't know a ton about social and are just like intaking this information of like, what's the perfect strategy? Like content pillars and this, and you should be doing that. And like, they feel like there's this like quote unquote perfect strategy that is going to be like, once they figure it out, everything's going to make sense. Everything's going to fall into place. They're going to just stick with that forever. And it's going to be like this solid foundation. And there's maybe a little tiny bit of truth to that.
Yeah.
But I think what they don't realize, especially for people who don't play around a lot, you know, on social, is that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, totally.
When people are giving these tips, even things like content pillars, it's like meant to be guidance and it's meant to evolve and change with the times. And it's not meant to be something that you're like trapped and set in stone in forever. And once you have these like things figured out, then that's your strategy for the rest of your life, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's super tempting to get kind of sucked into that, like, okay, now I have these pillars and this is all I'm going to post about. And on Mondays I do this and on Wednesdays I do this. And like people I think are gravitating towards that kind of like ideology.
Yeah.
But what we've seen work for ourselves, for our clients, for the Social Business Club members is a lot of experimentation and a lot of like tweaking and trying different things and seeing what works. And not to say that you don't need a foundation. I think a foundation is good. Content pillars are good. All these pieces of advice that we're giving and that you're probably getting from other experts are good. But I think we need to stray away from the idea that there's this like perfect strategy you're going to come up with and then like your problems are going to be solved for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. And I think anytime we see success, like that's why big brands have full-time social media people, right? Like why people like hire us, right? Is because there's a lot of iterating, right? There's always things that are changing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes changing too much can actually be a bit of a problem. And I think that's something that people don't really recognize is that they think that like, oh, like if I just like, you know, keep up with the trends and I keep up with what's popular, then everything's going to be okay. And everything is going to be okay, guys. Like you guys are all going to be fine. Like everything's fine. Social media is not life. But what we find is that when there are like too many shifts, it can really impact the way that your audience like sees you and impact what like your audience's experience is of you. You want to be thinking about social media as a journey that you're kind of taking your audience with you on, right? And so if all of a sudden you're like whiplash and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this now, and now I only show up on stories, and I now have a 9 grade, and then now I'm back, and then I'm on threads only, or like catch me on LinkedIn, I'm going live every day at 12, like, you know, like all of those things, it's like, yeah, try these things, see what works, success leaves clues. You're probably not going to see success the first time, but what I would really say is that, you know, there could be signs that maybe you're pivoting too much, and things that where people are watching you, and they're kind of like, what's going on? Like, I'm not like in on that. And that's often where we see, actually we just did an episode, you know, where we talked about, you know, funny, weird stories that come up with business, but this is actually where we see a lot with like scarcity, right? And boredom, when people are not seeing results on social, they do kind of dramatic things to try to see results, but often they haven't put in the reps. Like there's not enough consistency of what they're doing to actually see any success yet. And success leaves clues. It takes a bit of time.
Yeah, and I think it's about finding that middle ground, right? Like, it's not just coming up with this quote unquote perfect strategy, locking into that for the rest of your life. It's also not changing everything you're doing every week and being like, now I do this, now I have this thing, now I have that thing, now I'm going to try this platform, now I'm going to try that platform, and just like jumping from thing to thing, like you said, with the whiplash, like it just can get crazy. So I think the place to land is somewhere in between those two.
Yeah. So when do you think it's time for people to change strategies? Like if someone was like, I'm listening to this and like, I've been kind of doing the same shit for like 5 years, or like maybe they're like 6 months, maybe they're like this week. When do you think it's time for people to change their strategies?
Yeah, this week, certainly not.
No.
Certainly not. Even Adam Mosseri himself is like, don't read too much into like a post not doing well. Like you never know like what's going on in the world that day, why people might not be logging on. I think you have to put in, like you said, quite a few reps before you think about changing things. I would say the two main like times in my mind to change your strategy would be one, if you drastically change your business in some way.
Yeah.
So for example, a big pivot we made is we started off just doing social. We added podcasting. So we needed to pivot our strategy to include more podcasting because especially at the beginning, people had literally no idea we even did it.
This still comes up, guys. This still comes up. Honestly, someone DM'd me over the weekend. I was telling Ben, and she was like, "Hey, like crazy." They saw this reel of Ben talking about podcasting SEO, and in our episode from that week, and they were like, "I didn't know you did podcasting. What I'm looking for is launch support, and looking for someone who would produce the podcast afterwards. Is that you?" I'm like, "Yes, that's us. No, of course that's us." But it just shows, right? Not everyone sees all the things that we're doing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that is a good reason to change your strategy up a little bit. And again, we didn't totally abandon everything we were doing. It was just a tweak, an addition to incorporate that into our strategy. And then the other time to change your strategy, I think, is like when you're at that like 5-year mark, or it doesn't even have to be 5 years, but I'd say like minimum like 6 months to a year of really consistently putting in reps, trying different things, looking at what competitors are doing, people outside of your industry, what are they doing market research, like doing all of those things and trying like different things within what you're already doing on social, just experimenting a little bit. If you've been down that road and you feel like you've put in like, and I'm not talking like a year and you posted like once every 3 months for that year, you know, I'm talking like you put out some posts, you really gave it a good old college try. It might be time to change your strategy, especially if the analytics are reflecting kind of how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. And also like if your audience isn't reacting to like what you're doing, that's another piece too, is that we see this all the time where like we will take on a client and they'll be like, I'm posting 8 times a day and I'm like in my stories 10 times a day and I'm, posting reels and stories and carousels and no one's buying. And we're like, the posting schedule seems to not be the problem. Like that's actually that's overkill. I'm telling you it's overkill. But that's actually not the issue. You probably have a messaging problem, or like, people aren't getting what you're selling, or like we've seen that so many times where I'm like, I actually can't even access your website. Like I don't even know how would I buy from you? So if you start to see like your audience isn't really responding to things, that is an interesting thing. And there's no such thing as bad content. It's all just information. And we talk about this all the time. A good episode for you to watch or listen to. We did an episode about creating winning offers. Like that's a big thing, is that often when we think something's not working, it's actually sometimes not even about how much we're posting. Sometimes it's not even about the content. It's actually about there's a misalignment on the offer, or there's a misalignment on the way people are understanding what you're saying. The other thing to keep in mind too is that sometimes instead of doing a full overhaul, which we see all the time, people are like, I'm going to update my logo and update my website and I'm going to do all these things.
They bring out that damn 9 grid.
Yeah, the 9 grid.
Takes me down every time.
Maria hates the 9 grid. Tell us why.
I literally can't stand it. It makes no sense to me. Unless your strategy is you're going to be posting 3 photos at a time forever, or you're never going to post again.
Yeah.
Like, why are you so if you don't know what I'm talking about, the 9 grid is when you like put 9 photos in a row, or sometimes people do 3 or 6 or whatever, maybe even 12, yikes. And all like 12 or 9 of those posts like equal one post when you look at them on the feed. But then guys, the problem with it is you post one new post and the whole thing's janky. It's all off. It doesn't align anymore. It doesn't all equal one post anymore. And so it's so unsustainable for like an ongoing strategy when one of the most important things is to be consistent and adding new posts to your feed. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Also, I love when Maria says yikes. I don't know why. I just think it's so funny because it rarely comes out. But the 9 grid taken out. Like, yikes. Yeah, and I think it's like really just thinking about it from like a long-term perspective. Like, if you are using these tools to build community, people want to see stuff in your feed. And even this week, like I spoke at an event this Saturday and I posted a picture from of Josh and I. And my husband came and he ran our 360 photo booth at the event, and it was fun. But ish, I think, like, you know, for him and for me, like, you know, us to be together. But what was funny about it was that, like, that got so much, like, engagement, right? And that wasn't a planned post. You know, I speak at events all the time. I post all the time. But people were like, oh, cool, Josh was there. And that was like an added element, right? And so I think just something to keep in mind is that sometimes it's that stuff that does well. And it's like, oh, just remembering that, like, you know, maybe I do need to tweak my content to be less podcast focused and make it more intentional, or make it more casual or whatever. Like, you start to see those things from your audience. And I think that's where it's like the idea of a tweak or an overhaul. A tweak is like you make a little change, you're responding to what your audience wants. An overhaul is where you're going ham. You go the 9 grade, you redo everything. You're constantly redoing your bio. It's like constant. And we can link, for those of you, a bio is so important, having a really good bio. Because people only like look at your Instagram for 6 seconds before making a choice about whether or not to follow you. We'll link our Instagram bio optimization guide. That's awesome in the show notes. But you want to really only be testing one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. I actually make this mistake with the podcast all the time, where I always say to Ben, I'm like, Ben, this episode did so well. Why? And then we're like, well, okay, did we run an ad? You just spoke at an event? Is it because Ben was on it? Is it because it was about LinkedIn? Was the title really good? Like, we're trying so many different things at the same time. And so with social, it's the same thing. Like, you want to be trying like one thing at a time to see, oh, that actually really resonated with people. People are liking that I show up in my stories. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, people are really liking reels. I tried a trending reel and that worked really well, or a trial reel. Like, there's lots of different things, but you don't need to be doing kind of everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it benefits both you and your audience when you go for the tweaks instead of the overhaul, because like you said, one, it is more clear to you what's actually making the impact and difference, right? Yeah. If you're going to change your messaging, change what platform you show up on, change the way you show up, change your branding, like, and then it starts going well. It's like, okay, which of those things is contributing to it going well, you know? And I think the other thing is, for your audience, it brings them along the journey with you, instead of them being so in the dark of like, do I know this person? They do what? Like, their colors used to be like all bright and yellow and exciting, and now they're like purple. Like, just like everything at once, I think is confusing for the audience, because they're likely not like watching every single post you're posting, but in general, they know your vibe. They've built that trust with you. So I think by making those tweaks, you're bringing them along the journey, and it's not too jarring for the audience too. They feel like they're kind of in it with you.
Totally. Yeah, and the next piece too is giving time to everything. And I think this is something that like we see all the time as like mistakes people make, is that they're just kind of like, oh, that didn't work. Not gonna do that again, you know? And we actually did this. I'll link this episode as well about trial reels. I did a trial reel and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, this does not work. And it's like, you can't outrun a bad product. Like, it was just a bad reel, like a trial or otherwise, you know? And then we did a reel that actually had great messaging. And because it had great messaging, it performed really well as a trial reel and actually gave me some really good insights. And so that was a really interesting thing, but it's giving time for your strategy to work. You really want to see like, okay, you know, is it working? Do people connect with the messaging? Is it something that people are resonating with? Does it cause DMs? Does it get people to join my email list? All of those things make a big difference. Now, you and I have also had that too, where even with our own social medias and you know, the social snippet social, all of these things are going through evolutions. Mm-hmm. And we're always giving it a little bit more time. Like, my personal example is that, like, I find it so fascinating that nobody wants social media tips from me. Like, I'm like...
It is shocking.
I'd love to give people advice. But that's actually not what people are looking for. People love when I post pictures of my dog. Mm-hmm. People love the Patrick. They love kind of like our entrepreneurial journey stuff. They love the high vibe women stuff. Like, they love the me and Maria, you know? So it's like... And I'm kind of like, okay, like, if you guys want to see that, like, that's fine. But, like, I will sneak a social media tip in there. But it's been interesting to see how that's evolved over time.
Yeah, it's funny about my cleanse, because we were laughing. I was, like, texting Christina. I'm like, insane, like, Instagram story views hack. You go on a cleanse and you post about it. Because I started doing this cleanse in my naturopath, and, like, everybody needs to know about it. Like, they're DMing me, they're liking the stories, they're like I put like a question box. Anytime I've ever put a question box anywhere, like Have I Women, Social Snippet, my personal brand in the past, nobody types anything into
I do sometimes things. For you.
She does, or I type my secret hack. You can type your own questions in there. Answer your own questions. So many people are typing in this box, like, it's out of control. So I think it's important to pay attention to those things. Like you said, like, you might want to say, okay, I want to give these people social media tips. I want them give them social media tips. and they don't want the social media
Yeah.
tips. Like, it's okay, you know, like maybe there's a different place for that, or maybe there's another part of the social media, like you said, the entrepreneurial journey. You can lean into that instead. I think that's so important. And I feel like with trends and stuff too, it's really easy to get sucked into these,
Yep.
like, here's the propaganda I'm not falling for, like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I actually might make one of those later today. That's why it's on my mind. But we do an algorithm proof webinar, and our MO has always been like, despite the trends, everything's changing, like whatever, you can still have this like foundation that's like your brand, your values, your community, what you stand for. And I think it goes back to finding that ground, right, between like experimentation and staying true to who you are and your values and what, you know, your community likes getting from you.
Yeah. No, I love that. Also, I have to tell you, I'm going to out you here for a second.
Is it about chia puddings?
No, it's not about chia puddings, but there was a season where every morning she's like, here's my chia pudding. I'm like, no one cares. But
And
people
they cared. They
People
really
cared.
did care.
I think I was just jealous.
And then she got to me, so I like stopped posting them for a bit. And then like 2 months later, I posted one, and everyone was like, "They're back, yes!" And I was like,
I know.
wow.
I tease people too much, and then it breaks them down, and then but it's things people like, you know, Ben and the butter chicken. Like, you know, I bring people down, and it changes their habits. But
I know. Today he had pasta.
oh my gosh,
You're really bringing us down as a team here.
I'm so sorry. I need to work on my attitude. But what I was gonna say is that your stories hack wasn't cleansed. Your stories hack was be single and take a cute selfie
In a red dress.
in a red dress, and then the story views go up. And I said, share that with Ben.
That did more than double the story views. Hate to tell you guys. Hate to say it.
I'm just outing you
Anyway,
here.
I am outed.
But what I will say is that is actually just a funny example. We're just teasing. You know, you don't need to break up with your partners and start wearing red clothing, but unless you want to, and that feels good for you. But what I was gonna say is, it just shows you that people are interested in people. You know, and that is something that we talk about all the time. Is that like my story views are always up. Like, you know, I posted the other day about like being pregnant, and I spoke at this event. I'm 38 weeks pregnant. I'm like there, you know, and so many people reached out to me via DM. Or like I posted being like, hey, I'm in a really vulnerable season of like saying no to things that I'm not used to saying no to. And there's so many good opportunities. And I'm like, and I'm feeling a lot of guilt and like shame around that. But also like, I might never come back to some of these things. And like, that's also scary for me. And like, I had probably 40 DMs from women being like, yeah, that's the reality of becoming a mom. Like, you know, so it's just really interesting because I think the lesson there for me is that like, you know, yes, as our you know, systems shift and, you know, our like strategy shift, like our lives shift too. And people want to be part of that.
Totally.
So just something to think about.
And I know we're talking about our personal brands and joking about the, you know, the chia puddings and the red dresses, but I think it applies to business too. Like in your business, people want, especially if you're like a solopreneur or you're kind of at the heart of your business, you're something like a coach where you're really like front and center. They want to know those like maybe a little bit more vulnerable pieces about you, or just the more real, authentic, kind of raw pieces, especially in stories. Like I feel like that is the stuff that's really hitting. And more, even for like feed content now, especially on Instagram, like the days of being this like perfect teacher who like knows everything, that's gonna like educate the masses are gone. And now it's like people want authenticity, they want raw, they want real, they want someone they can relate to. So bringing your like personality and quirkiness into the business, and whether that's actually you as a human being or whatever your brand identity is, I think it's still a really good strategy.
Yeah, there's this girl I'm doing a lot of learning from lately. Not to belabor this point, but then we can move on. I'm doing a lot of learning from lately who does trial reels and stuff like that. Her name's Abigail Pugh.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen her. So her whole thing is with digital products. She teaches people how to sell digital products. It's cool. And I'm not actually trying to learn how to sell a digital product. And nothing that she posts at this point has been something where I've been like, oh my goodness, like that has changed my perspective on the world. But the way she posts has, which is that she does trial reels. I get hit by her trial reels all the time. But she'll post the exact same message on 3 different reels. One will be her eating a burrito in her car. One will be a really polished like video, kind of like this. Another will be like her walking in the sunset with her child. And she sees what performs best from a visual standpoint, right? And it looks like it's always the burrito.
I was gonna say, I bet it's the freaking burrito.
Yeah, but it's because we want people who are like us, right? We see.
Yeah.
So I've said this before. Those of you listening or watching, like, we are in an unprecedented era where you could film yourself doing literally anything for B-roll, and it's like amazing, and you can use it for, you know, God knows what, and put great trending stuff on it, and have a successful viral reel if that's what you want. And so I think just a reminder too, like, it can be like, personal, and it can be, more casual than talking head studio videos. Do those work? Yeah. Have we done them? For sure. Do we still do them? Yes. But like, I think the real like value is like people want to feel like they know you, because there's so many people they can buy from. So the more they feel like they can resonate with you, the better.
Totally. I filmed a 0.5 video of myself walking down the street today, and it's going to be a reel pretty soon.
Oh, can't wait. You set up a tripod and walk down the
No,
street?
it's just a selfie. Like, it's like a 3-second me holding the camera up. I'm like, that's what it is these days.
I love this. And see, immediately I went to judge you. I was like, you took out a tripod and filmed yourself? I'm 85 years old, but yeah. Okay, so the other thing is just, we've talked about this a lot, but like building community, that's like really like the core of like what you should be doing. You can post until you're blue in the face, but if you do not have people to buy from you, you don't have a good community, unfortunately, you were not going to see the success that you're looking for on social. So I think, and like your community will give you like clues. Like even today I posted on Instagram being like, we have a new brand partnership that we're working up with a freebie. Curious if anyone would be interested in testing it. I have like 15 people who DM me saying they would love to test it.
Awesome.
So sweet, right? And so I think you want to make sure your community is kind of up on what you're doing. And you're allowed to evolve. Like that's another piece too, is that like, a lot of times people are scared about changing their messaging, doing something a little radical, maybe following a trend for the first time or something like that, making their first reel. But people are alongside, they're cheering for you, and they're so excited about your next evolution.
So good. I love it. And I think it's important to trust your intuition, trust your gut, and do what feels right to you, because people are doing crazy stuff out there on the internet. Like if you're spending too much time consuming and not enough time creating, it can get confusing. So I think there's a lot of value to taking some time, depending on how woo you want to get, maybe some meditation or creating a nice space, that kind of vibe.
Drinking some cabbage juice.
Yeah, getting rooted in yourself and what you want to put out there, and not getting too swept away with all the trends and what everyone else is doing all the time.
Yeah, I love that. Well, okay, thank you so much, Maria, for this, because this is so important, and such a question we get all the time is like, how often should it be? Every 6 months I change my strategy, every year. We don't have an exact timeline for you. Definitely depends on what's going on in your business, but bring people along for the journey with you, and just make sure you're checking your data, serving your people. But yeah, we're so excited, and we've actually had quite an evolution, especially on the social snippet page this year. I've been banned from reposting stories, so it's been a lot. But no, lots of exciting things have kind of shifted our way as well, and so I think it's always really great to see.
Yeah, and so fun inside the Social Business Club too, teaching other people how to do the same.
Yeah, so fun. Okay, well, we will leave it here. We'd love to hear about like what has worked for you. What are some flops you've had? Maybe you're gonna try something that you've learned here today, or you're gonna pivot on something. We'd love to hear about it.
We would love to hear about it. Thanks for having me.
Whee!